what Lewis says is that modern man actually thinks of ourselves as standing at the top of a staircase looking back. And we're like, oh, look at all of these things that we've evolved from and that we've transcended and that
Hmm.
we've, and this is the myth of evolutionism, which in another essay somewhere else, Lewis talks about this more. And he says that the myth of evolutionism is separate from like the biological theory of evolution, and you shouldn't treat the two as though the same thing. Because the
Hmm.
myth of evolution is this idea that the new must always usurp the old, right? And this is the
Hmm.
main idea in Wagner, and it's the main idea in Nietzsche, and it's the main idea in Star Wars, right? If people want to think about it that way, which is very Wagnerian, deliberately so, in its music and in its use of light and dark and everything. Star Wars is all about like you have to kill your father and then like take his place, right? And this is what happens. This is what happens in the original Star Wars trilogy, but it's still there actually, even in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, the one that everybody hates.
Mm.
Justly, I think it's not great, but it is very authentic to the original spirit of Star Wars.
Mm.
That we all hated that scene where they're like burning all the Jedi books or whatever, but that's totally authentic to the spirit of Star Wars, which is always about the new thing coming along has to overthrow the old order, right? So
The
that
overthrowing.
has to overthrow. Yeah, so that's the myth, and that's why the main characters of Star Wars always have to be rebels, which is sort of becomes a problem then. And that's why these new
Yeah.
Star Wars stories just are not very good. Is because it's like, well, we just had a rebellion. Well, yes, but what about Second
Yeah.
Rebellion? Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's the modern model, you could say, and it's built off of this myth of evolutionism, this that the old order has to
Hmm.
go. The medieval model is totally different from that because in the medieval model, you are always building on the thing that came before you, right? So nobody
Hmm.
in the Middle Ages thought, oh yes, though the classical period, yet those stupid benighted Romans and Greeks, we can do better
Hmm.
than them, right? Everybody in the Middle Ages was essentially a classicist, right? Everybody in the Middle Ages was saying was trying to continue to build on the civilization, essentially the Greco-Roman civilization that they'd inherited. And this
Mm.
is why so first of all, this idea is the main idea of universal history. Like this is the main
Hmm.
thing that we've been trying to help people understand. Not just Greco-Roman civilization, by the way, we'll talk about this in a minute, but also on the Semitic inheritance of Christianity.
Mm.
Like the whole idea of like hierarchies of angels, all that stuff, right?
Mm.
That
Hmm.
comes straight from that comes straight. It's not a Greco-Roman thing that comes straight from ancient Judaism and so on.